Is your loved one holding on to things that no longer make sense and refusing to let it go? In this video, you'll discover 7 strange belongings seniors often cling to before dementia begins. Each one reveals a hidden change in the brain that most families overlook. These stories are based on real behaviors observed in documented real cases. Many of them showed no other signs until it was too late. Let's begin. Number 1. A bag they won't let go of. Joanna, 77, had always been tidy and practical, so her son found it strange when she began carrying her purse from room to room like it was glued to her side. Joanna would hold it in her lap while watching TV or rest it beside her at the dinner table. Soon she began bringing it into the bathroom with her. Then she started to sleep with it in her bed. When asked what's in it, Joanna just said, "Nothing." But things got stranger over time. Joanna started snapping at people who got too close to the bag, warning them not to touch it. Once she even accused the mailman of trying to steal it. Then there was a turning point. One night, she broke down crying because she couldn't find it, only to discover it was already in her hands. Inside the purse were crumpled coupons, a spoon, and an expired library card. No wallet, no phone, just nonsense items. The fixation grew until her family finally took her in for a full evaluation. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's that month, exactly 2 years since Joanna began carrying her purse everywhere. Neurologists confirm that sudden attachment to a purse, bag, or container is often an early sign of dementia. As memory weakens, the brain starts assigning emotional importance to familiar objects. The bag becomes a source of control, especially when the person begins forgetting where things are. Even if the contents are meaningless, guarding it brings a false sense of security. This kind of fixation often reflects deeper confusion, anxiety, or disorientation that has already taken hold. Number 2. A pet's collar or toy from long ago. Nearly a decade earlier, 79-year-old Gary had lost his Labrador retriever, Cooper. The family grieved together, buried him in the backyard, and moved on. But just a year before he was diagnosed with vascular dementia, Gary suddenly brought out Cooper's old collar and began carrying it in his pocket every day. At first, he said it reminded him of good times. But then he began setting out a bowl of food and water on the floor each morning. When asked about it, he shrugged and said, "He'll be hungry when he comes home." His son thought he was joking until Gary started leaving the back door open at night so Cooper could get in. Soon after, a neighbor found Gary in the driveway calling out for the dog. He was barefoot, confused, and growing increasingly agitated when no one helped him search. When they finally convinced him to come inside, he clutched the collar to his chest and refused to speak. That was the day his son scheduled a neurological evaluation. Experts warn that sudden emotional attachment to a long-lost pet can reflect early time distortion and memory regression. As the brain loses track of the present, emotionally charged memories can feel current and urgent. The object becomes more than sentimental. It anchors the person to a version of reality their brain is trying to hold on to. When that attachment escalates into confusion, hallucination, or obsessive behavior, it's often a sign that dementia is already progressing beneath the surface. Number 3. A locked drawer or box they won't let you touch. Frances was known to be private, but never secretive. That changed when she was 80. Her daughter noticed her spending more and more time hovering around the hallway cabinet. Frances began locking one of the drawers and guarding it closely. She'd jiggle the lock, peer inside, then close it again. When asked what was in it, she said, "Just something important." Once, Frances flew into a panic when her daughter accidentally brushed against the drawer while cleaning. Not long after, her daughter found Frances sitting by the cabinet in the morning, and she was still there that evening at dinner. When her grandson asked, what she was doing. She whispered, "People are watching. They want what's in there." Eventually, her daughter opened it during a visit while Frances was asleep. Inside was a broken flashlight, some loose batteries, 2 old birthday cards, and an empty coin pouch. No money, no documents, just clutter. The family scheduled a neurological evaluation that week, and Frances was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at age 82. Findings suggest that obsessive guarding behavior in dementia often stems from early paranoia and disorganized thinking. As memory and logic decline, the brain may assign exaggerated meaning to random objects or places. A locked drawer becomes a symbol of control or imagined threat. When someone becomes unusually protective of items that have no clear purpose, it may reflect cognitive loss already in motion. That means it's not the neurologist who sees the first signs. It's their wife, son, or even their granddaughter who notices the warning signs that something deeper is happening. These small, strange behaviors often show up long before any obvious symptoms like memory loss. But because they don't fit the typical image of dementia, they're easy to overlook. If something feels off, it probably is. Trust your instincts and keep watching. Number 4. Old ID cards or driver's licenses. Roughly 2 years before he was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, 67-year-old Ralph pulled out an old, faded driver license from the 1980s and insisted it was his current ID. At first, it seemed like a harmless mix-up, but a month later, Ralph tried to use that expired license to check in at a medical appointment. When the receptionist asked for a current ID, Ralph became frustrated and said, "That one's better. It's the real me." His son later found 3 more outdated licenses tucked into different jacket pockets, along with an old work badge from a job Ralph had left 20 years earlier. He then began refusing to show his current ID at all, claiming it was fake or didn't feel right. One day, he got turned away from the bank after arguing with the teller about which card had his real information. That evening, his wife found him cutting up his current license with scissors, muttering, "They're trying to change who I am." That was the moment she decided to seek professional help. Many studies suggest that early dementia can trigger distorted identity awareness, especially tied to physical objects like ID cards. As memory weakens and time perception fades, older versions of the self may feel more familiar than the present. Clinging to outdated documents can reflect a breakdown in recognition, trust, and logical thinking. When someone refuses to part with expired IDs or insists they're still valid, it's often the brain trying to preserve a version of reality that no longer exists. Number 5. Stacks of expired mail or bills. Anna was 75 when her brother noticed the kitchen table was gradually covered with unopened mail, and about a year before she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, the table was finally no longer visible. It had disappeared under a growing pile of junk mail, but Anna began guarding the stack and wouldn't let anyone move it. When asked why, she said, "Some of that's legal. I'm handling it." Her brother offered to help sort it, but Anna became defensive and insisted everything was in order. One day, when her brother finally looked through it, he found expired bills, old bank statements, promotional letters still addressed to people who had lived there years ago. But the strangest moment came late one night when Anna was found tearing through the pile in tears, convinced someone had sent her a warning about her property being taken. She couldn't explain where the letter was or who had sent it. Her brother scheduled an evaluation the next day and later got the result he anticipated. Clinical reports warn that hoarding mail or refusing to discard papers is a common early sign of dementia. As memory and reasoning decline, tasks like opening bills or throwing away old documents can become overwhelming. Rather than admit confusion, the person may cling to the paper as proof that they're still managing things. But when the stack grows and the explanations don't make sense, it often signals deeper cognitive trouble is underway. Number 6. A daily planner or calendar from the past. 79-year-old Peter pinned a calendar from 2015 to the wall in the hallway and began circling dates and scribbling notes on it, like it was current. At first, his son thought he was just being nostalgic, but then Peter started calling on specific dates, saying things like, "Don't forget, your sister graduates next week," or "We have a flight in the morning," even though no such events were happening. His son tried to replace the calendar with a new one, but Peter got upset and demanded the old one be put back, saying, "That's the only one that lines up." A few months later, Peter missed a real doctor's appointment and insisted it hadn't happened yet. When they checked, he had written it on the 2015 calendar, not the current one. Then came the breaking point. Peter showed up at his daughter's house with a suitcase, convinced they were flying to Florida the next day for a trip they had taken over 10 years earlier. His doctor diagnosed him with frontotemporal dementia, a year and a half after he began clinging to that old calendar. Brain scientists show that fixation on outdated calendars or planners can signal time disorientation, one of the earliest cognitive shifts in dementia. The brain may struggle to process the present, instead defaulting to familiar timelines from the past. Writing on an old calendar can create a false sense of order, but when that calendar begins replacing reality, it's often a sign that memory systems are no longer functioning properly. Number 7. Old, torn clothes. They refuse to wash or replace. About 3 years before her Alzheimer's diagnosis, 72-year-old Emily began wearing the same cardigan every day. Her daughter brushed it off, thinking it was just her favorite one. But it started to smell after a few weeks. Emily refused to wash it, saying, "It's not dirty, I barely wore it." Soon she was sleeping in it, eating in it, and even putting it on over fresh clothes after showering. Her daughter tried to sneak it into the laundry, but Emily became upset and demanded it back immediately. Over time, the holes started appearing, the cuffs frayed, and the seams split. Still, she refused to part with it. She said the cardigan fit just right and warned her daughter not to ruin the shape. Things escalated when Emily wore it to a family gathering, and someone gently pointed out the stains and holes. She burst into tears, accusing them of mocking her. After that, she kept the cardigan folded in her purse whenever she left the house, pulling it out in moments of stress. The attachment became so intense that her daughter finally called the doctor. Neurological research confirms that refusal to change clothing or let go of worn-out garments can be an early behavioral sign of dementia. As cognitive function declines, routines like laundry, hygiene, or wardrobe judgment may start to break down, but more often, the clothing itself becomes emotionally symbolic, a way for the person to feel anchored, safe, or normal. When logic fades, the brain clings to the familiar, even when it no longer makes sense. If you notice one of these signs in someone you love, don't ignore them. These behaviors may seem small or harmless, but they often point to much deeper changes in the brain. Early intervention matters more than most people realize. It can delay decline, ease confusion, and give families time to prepare.
And there you have it. What are your thoughts? Next, dive into this video for more essential tips to transform your health and help you thrive. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching Healthy End, and we'll see you there.